Welcome to training course, Digital Presentation, and Preservation of Europe Ritual Cuisine. Module 2 Basic Theory and Practice, How to Make Photo with Mobile Phone. Discover the photographic potential of your smartphone. Basic Settings. Advanced Settings. Photo formats of smartphones. This lesson aims to provide students with the basic notions and concepts regarding basic settings. Advanced Settings. Photo formats of smartphones. At the end of the lesson, students will know the main notions for unlocking the potential of their smartphones. There are hundreds of smartphones on the market today, and they range from the cheapest to the very expensive ones. Obviously, the cost corresponds to a higher quality of the product and therefore also of the operating system, and equipment such as lenses and photographic sensors. Today, thanks to smartphones, we can take pictures at any time and with a light and handy device. A smartphone camera works just like any camera, so we will have the same mechanisms and tools: sensor, shutter, aperture, lens, focus, image stabilizer, etc. One thing that is certainly important is that before starting to photograph, we will have to carefully clean the lenses of our smartphone. Modern smartphones have more than one photographic lens, some models even have 4 rear cameras, each with its own specific function. The first is necessary for 2x optical zoom, the second provides an ultra-wide-angle lens for panoramic photos, the third is a 5-megapixel depth lens, and finally we find the main lens, 24 megapixel. How many lenses does your smartphone have? Our smartphones are different from each other, but the basic information and their settings are very similar to each other. Smartphones have numerous automatic functions that allow you to take photographs according to the situation we want to capture. When we operate our camera, we will have the possibility to set the shooting mode. Let's see some of them that can be found in a good level smartphone. Time-lapse. Create a time-lapse video that records motion over a period of time. Panorama. Take a panoramic photo of a landscape or other scene. Slow motion. Record a video with a slow motion effect. Video. Record a video. Photo. Take a picture. Portrait. Apply a depth of field effect to photos by identifying the face to be portrayed. Nightscape mode is useful for getting bright shots even in the dark. Finally, in this example there is a Pro mode that allows you to unlock settings in which we can set the smartphone as if it were a reflex, with the possibility of processing photographs with the RAW format, the most complete format that collects all the data of the captured image, and allows a high-level post-production. When we set up the photography mode, we are in control of some basic elements. We can decide to set a timer that takes the photo after a certain amount of seconds, a very useful function if we have to take photographs in which we want to appear too. Another very important feature is the flash. We can decide not to use it, to set an automatic mode, or to decide that the flash is activated with each shot. The use of flash depends a lot on the situation in which we find ourselves and is not always an optimal choice. Another very important setting is the format of the photograph we want to take. In this example we can opt for a full screen format or a 4:3 format, or a square photograph with a 1:1 format used for example for social Instagram. All smartphones have the ability to zoom in or out on the scene we have decided to photograph. In this case we talk about zoom, and it is indicated with x1 or x5 or x10, or how many times the scene is enlarged compared to the original photo. It is very important, however, When we decide to enlarge or reduce the scene we are photographing with our smartphone, to know if we have a digital zoom or an optical zoom. In fact, if our camera has a digital zoom, the smartphone does nothing but enlarge the scene we see, significantly lowering the image quality. If we have an optical zoom instead, it means that the camera lens moves, allowing you to enlarge the photo. This magnification does not affect the digital part of the shot, so the photograph will maintain the same resolution as the original. We have seen that our smartphones can produce images of different types, in an advanced way compared to classic photography. Time-lapse is a cinematographic technique. A movie is made by processing a series of photographs taken from the same position but in distant time intervals. This technique is widely used in nature documentaries, but thanks to modern technology it has also landed on our latest generation smartphones. Another advanced mode to take high-impact photos with our smartphone is the panorama mode. This technique also originates from classical photography. In the past, several photographs were taken on the same plane but by moving the scene, and then they were pasted in post-production. Now with our smartphones we can take photos at 270 degrees or even 360 degrees with a simple click, and having the foresight to have a steady hand and to follow the instructions on our display. The formats with which photographs are taken with our smartphones have lost their original meaning, namely the printing of the photograph. In the digital age, the photos we take with our smartphone are destined to be shared on social networks or to remain in the physical memory of the phone or in a cloud of data. The formats of our smartphones are therefore conditioned by social networks, in particular Instagram, which has seen the 1:1 square format affirmed. Only recently the 16:9 format or full screen, used for stories, has appeared. Usually our smartphones take pictures in a 4:3 format, so when we shoot, to be able to keep the photograph on the phone or on a cloud, we just have to choose between the 4:3 or 16:9 format. We just have to pay attention and get to know our phone, because the sensor capacity, if it has a 4:3 ratio, will hardly make good photos in a 16:9 format. We got to see what are the basic and some advanced settings that can be found on our smartphones. The smartphone models are very numerous and very different from each other. As an exercise, based on what you have learned from this module, we invite you to explore your smartphone and discover its potential by practicing and taking pictures. Have fun. 1. JPEG, Joint Photographic Experts Group. Widely supported and used online, with small file sizes making it very efficient. Compression artifacts can be an issue, however, and it's not ideal for graphics. 2. Ping, Portable Network Graphics, designed for graphic and widely supported online, can preserve transparency layers, unlike most other formats. Not as efficient as JPEG and not designed for real-world images, but a good choice for photography composites. 3. TIFF tagged image file format, great where maximum image quality is required and for archiving. Can be saved with or without lossy comprehension, although file sizes are larger than those of equivalent JPEGs, which makes it less ideal for online display. 4. HEF. Apple's proprietary format for images captured using iPhone and iPad devices running iOS 11 or later, designed to produce images with the quality of JPEGs but with more efficient compression. Limited support outside of Apple's ecosystem. 5. RAW. RAW smartphone images are unprocessed and contain the data captured on the cell phone camera. If you have an Android, go to the Pro settings to shoot in RAW. To shoot in RAW on an iPhone, you must use a manual app. The SCO is a free app that allows you the options to shoot in RAW. 6. Smart Frame. Interactive image format designed for optimum presentation and security online. and perfect for graphics that don't require the preservation of transparency channels. Easily embedded using script with support for thumbnails on social media, and in search engines. Tips: high quality image. iPhone. Turn on the grid function in camera settings to frame your photos correctly. To change focus, hold down your finger on the screen where you want to focus until the A/AF lock symbol appears, which means your focus settings are locked in place. To adjust exposure, tap on the screen once for the tiny sun symbol to appear. Drag the sun up to increase exposure and down to decrease exposure. Android? Look for a manual mode or professional mode in the mode menu in your camera app. If you don't see the manual mode, swipe up from the bottom of your screen in the camera app. The manual settings may be hidden there. Experiment with adjusting the metering, ISO, shutter speed, and white balance to see what works best for your studio light. Megapixels. Megapixels, MP, determine the resolution of a digital photo. 1 megapixel equals 1 million pixels in an image. In simplest terms, it is the horizontal pixel of a photo multiplied by its vertical dimension. Like with pixels, the higher the megapixel the better. Samsung Galaxy. The default resolution on a camera with 12 megapixels, like the Samsung Galaxy S8, is 4032 pixels wide and 3024 pixels high, 56 times 42 inches, at the highest resolution or actual size. 4032 times 3024 equals 12,192,768 pixels or 12 megapixels. iPhone. The default resolution on a camera with 8 megapixels, like the iPhone 6, is 3456 times 2304. That is 3456 pixels wide and 2304 pixels high, 48 times 32 inches, in size at its highest resolution or actual size. 3456 times 2304 equals 7,962,624 pixels or 7.96 megapixels. Screen. Press and hold down the power button and the volume down key simultaneously. Do not release the keys until you hear the shutter sound or see your screen flash. The screenshot will now be in your phone's gallery. Here is how you can take a screenshot on your smartphone if it does not support the default mode. Press and hold the power button and the home button simultaneously. Keep pressing the keys until you hear the shutter sound or see your screen flash. The screenshot will now be in your phone's gallery. Operating systems and device compatibility. Microsoft Windows Phone. Windows are the most familiar and reliable OS in the world of computers. But the operating system is not very popular with mobile users, who use the Android or iOS. The advantages of the Windows Phone are that it does not take up a lot of RAM. Google Android. With the power of Google behind it, Android is by far the most popular OS used by smartphone manufacturers. The ease of use, the immense possibilities of customization and minimum restrictions that characterize the Android. Besides, you can get it really cheap. Operating systems and device compatibility. Apple iPhone OS. The Apple OS, exclusively employed in the Apple devices, namely the iPhones and the iPads. The Apple has fewer features than the Android and is less responsive to other platforms, besides being very expensive. Storage space. Internal storage. Internal storage is mostly used by Android OEM and app developers to store sensitive files and data. The objective here is to protect them from unintentional or accidental harm. External storage. There are two types of external storage. One is memory or SD cards that we insert manually. This is the most popular form of external memory that most smartphone users understand. By that definition, cloud storage like Dropbox is also external storage. Battery life. Battery life is a measure of battery performance and longevity, which can be quantified in several ways, as runtime on a full charge, as estimated by a manufacturer in milliampere hours, or as the number of charge cycles until the end of useful life. Factors that influence battery life. Battery size, display, size, resolution, brightness, refresh. Connections, signal, data, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi and location services. Chipset. Camera. Other hardware, iFixit. Active apps, GPS, Snapchat stock. Passive apps. The course was created by the consortium of the Eurica project funded by the Erasmus Plus program. Thanks for the attention.